Hello and welcome to Shades and Layers. I'm your host, Kutwanos Kosana Richie. This episode is for all you career girls contemplating your next steps, whether you're ready or only halfway to taking a leap into your next season. This episode will have you wanting to pursue that fulfillment you're looking for. My guest is Alison Hall, founder of Change Agent Coaching for Women and co-founder of The Boldest Me, which is a woman-focused personal empowerment brand. Alison spent 25 years climbing the corporate ladder, something she enjoyed very much, until she felt stuck and was no longer having fun. So she took a leap into entrepreneurship, starting a couple of women-centered businesses, selling one along the way, and now using what she's learned while working with career women to help others get unstuck. Alison is a certified CPA and draws on this background, as well as her corporate experience, to guide women through life transitions such as divorce and career change. Her mission is to help you discover your strengths and kick out any societal expectations, self-doubt, burnout, and reinvent yourself to craft the life you truly want. Her motto is, "It's never too late to chase your dreams. With just one life to live, it's time to unleash your potential." This is Alison's story. Please describe your work and what the deeper attachment you attach, to these activities.
Okay, sure. I'm currently the, founder and owner of Change Agent Coaching. And it started out, I won't bore you with the details of where I began, but where I am right now is I work with women who are in transition and predominantly women who are somehow affected by divorce. Interestingly, my parents were never divorced. I've never been divorced, but somehow I've become mired in the industry. And it was almost as if I just found that while there are plenty of attorneys and plenty of, CPAs, I happen to be a CPA as well, but there weren't people helping women specifically really get equitable divorces and come out feeling, if not better than when they went into the marriage, at least whole. And so that's kind of what I do now. And I have a partner who's a psychologist, and we have developed another firm that's called The Boldest Me, and it's dedicated to all things personal development for women, and particularly women affected by divorce.
Yeah.
Because,
so how did you come to this work? Did you fall into it or what happened?
Yeah, I would love to say that I had some grand epiphany, and yet I'm reluctant to say I fell into it. But
right.
I, to be honest, again, I'm a CPA and I had a corporate career. And when I finished that, of my own volition, I was just looking for something else where I could use some of my skills and talents, but in a different way, a much more personal way, less, big structure and more one-on-one. And so I became a certified financial analyst, which is somebody who specifically helps people getting divorced figure out their finances and where they're right now, where they're going to go in the future, those sorts of things. So I got into that end of it. And as I was working with clients, I ended up working predominantly with women. And what I found was that they needed more personal assistance than you can just get from maybe your friends and family. It needed to be somebody who could be objective, but was also knowledgeable about some of the decisions that you need to make. So that's how it kind of evolved into both coaching, and I still work with my financial clients as well.
Okay, I see. You mentioned that it's women in transition. Of course, divorce is a huge transition. Which other transitions are you dealing with in your business?
Yeah, interestingly, some of them go hand in hand. Very often I work with women who not only are either going through divorce or have recently, but also have either had an epiphany and decided that they need a career change, have been edged out of a particular career path or an industry or just a company, and are looking to make change. And typically they've already tried to do some of this work themselves, but you just get bogged down and afraid.
Right.
And so, I end up working with people trying to just get them to open the blinders and look at the bigger picture and not make decisions and plan for your life based on fear.
And I'm interested in that part about edged out of a career. What happens there?
Yeah, I think there have been certainly plenty of articles about it, but it doesn't matter if there's an article that's been written about it or a news story. When it happens to you, it just feels devastating, and you're the only person who matters. And that's so true. But very often women, I mean, it's still true. Women get paid a fraction of what men get paid in similar jobs or the exact same jobs. And very often, most large companies, particularly even smaller ones, are cones, right? They go up
Yeah.
to the top, and that means that there are very few people at these other levels. And that means that for every job, there's competition. And very often, I mean, sure, there are lots of C-suite women, lots of women who are extraordinarily successful, but it doesn't negate the fact there are lots of women who also get edged out and perhaps put on the back burner. Maybe your career isn't moving at the same trajectory as a male counterpart, and it makes you feel as if you're not going where you want to go because you're not. And so I work with women who maybe haven't necessarily completely been fired, although sometimes I do work with women who've been fired or at least, maybe downsized. But when you see that your career isn't going the way that you had planned, your master plan, that's a great opportunity to just kind of take stock and see about making some changes. So those are the people I typically work with.
Mm. A controversial one. But, do you think that there is a limit to how far you can get in corporate as a woman?
I think that's a great question. I think, I wouldn't put an absolute yes or no on it, but I do think there are limitations. And I think those limitations, as I was just saying, are borne out in the numbers, right? While the numbers of C-suite women and women CEOs and women who are running things in corporate America continues to rise, the numbers continue to rise, I still think that men edge out women over and over and over again. As much as we talk about how women get preferential treatment or, people of color are getting more preferential treatment, the numbers still just don't bear that out. And I think that also, a lot of the women that I work with, I didn't kind of say this, a lot of the women that I work with ultimately are sort of toying with or putting their toe in the water of thinking about entrepreneurship or working for themselves for that very reason, because they have the skills to make it, to do what it is that they want to do, but they're accustomed to working in corporate America. And it's a big jump. And so it takes some examination. It's not everybody's cut out for it. It takes some examination. But to your point, a lot of women, they're probably, I think I read a statistic that there are more successful women entrepreneurs than there are men. And, per capita, I would say. And there's a reason, because that's where you have the opportunity to show and grow and do things the way you want to do them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder how much age plays, what role it plays. Is it a huge factor in this edging out?
Yeah, you're asking all the things that's exactly the demographic of women that I work with, women who have very often and been aged out. But that's not something that a company is ever going to say to you because, well, they can't, right? I mean, that's not legal.
It would not be legal to do that, no.
Yeah, it's not legal, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, right? So I work predominantly with women probably in their mid to late 40s and definitely 50s and 60s, because very often I've worked with women who have held on, and held high level positions in the hopes of moving even higher, but they've gotten into their 50s and 60s and either they have been edged out in some way, not overtly, but in some way edged out by somebody younger or by a man who may have been in the same age group.
I mean, yes, I understand that you can be aged out or edged out of your career, but then not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship, right? No. So what do you advise those clients to do? How do you navigate that space?
For me, it's kind of twofold, because first, a lot of the clients that I work with, particularly coming from corporate America, there's a self-worth attached to your title and what you do and your background, your education. Yes. I mean, your self-worth is built around that. You may also be a mom and a spouse and things like that, but from a career perspective, this is who you are. And so one of the first things we tend to kind of work on is, why is your self-worth attached to that? What is it really attached to? What's really important to you? And if you only have one life, how is it that you want to conduct that life? What is it that you want to be important? What do you want your purpose to be? Even if you're not sure about what your passion is, because we talk a lot about passion in the world generally, but not everybody knows what that is. And some people, it's almost like a dirty word, like, if I don't have a passion, who am I, kind of thing. but we tend to we start out with kind of trying to figure out what's important to you. And if you start to take ego out of things, if your self-worth isn't attached to what you're doing, then it makes it a lot easier to look around you and kind of see what your passions are or what you feel compelled to do. Because ultimately we end up trying to find a marriage between, having some purpose in your life, right? But also making a living, doing something that somebody in the world needs of you, and using skills that you either have, which is great if you can use skills that you have, whether you've been using them or not previously, or skills that you could gain pretty easily, so that marriage, that's what we try to talk about. But the first thing, again, is to kind of let go of the ego and stop, it kind of change the story, the narrative that you've had up until now. It served you up until now, until it didn't. And now it's time to write a new chapter. It sounds kind of trite, but that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah. So when women come to you, they trying to write this new chapter, and it feels to me that there is a neglected stage of development in a life cycle, especially women's life cycle. And there's a lot happening, this space of, women in their late 40s, early 50s. There's coaching, there are retreats, there, just all these find yourself again. What's happening? What happened? Suddenly it's being recognized.
You know why? I think it's because there's a whole generation of women, multiple generations of women, for whom those early years are defined by other things. Defined by, it could be, career, or what other people's expectations are around your career. It could be family. It could be spouse, or all those things combined. And I just don't think, I think that there are younger generations coming in who are thinking constantly about those things. They are very self-aware. They work on personal development from their teens. I just think that women who are now or who recently have come into the 40s, 50s, 60s, that just wasn't something in their early years they spent time thinking about. They had other priorities that were already lined out for them. And then as you raise your families, or you kind of, plateau in your career, then suddenly it's a come to Jesus time, if you will,
Right.
Oh, what is my life?
What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, exactly. Right. My kids aren't here, or they soon won't be, or they don't need me as much. And I have this job that maybe I like. I don't even know. I never really thought about whether I love it. I think it's just a moment of self-reflection, and we look in all different corners, because I know better than anybody else in that regard. I've taken my fair share of, let's find yourself kind of retreats when I was younger and things like that.
Right.
I don't think I ever really did to that degree. It was just, it gave me the opportunity to have a good vacation and just think about myself and nobody else. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A nice little break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, we need those now and again,
Exactly.
So how do you work with your clients? Is it one-on-one? Is it group sessions? How do you organize that offer?
Yeah, with change agent coaching, I work with people one-on-one. And that's just because that's the way I began it. Like I said, I really wanted to work with people individually. The Boldest Me we created because, again, my partner is a psychologist, and she has her own clinical, psychology thing going on, but there's only so many clients she can see. And with my coaching, there are only so many one-on-one clients I can see. And we became partners in this because we were referring people back and forth, because sometimes you need coaching and sometimes you need, therapy. Sometimes you need both. And we decided this would be a great opportunity to put these things together, but in a more group-based kind of fashion. So the Boldest Me is group-based, retreats, things like that. Yeah. The retreats.
The retreats, yes. I think it's a fantastic having a quiet space because nobody does that, even now with the young women getting into this self-assessment, etc. I don't think there's enough quiet.
I agree. I completely agree.
So much distraction. Alison Hall is the founder of Change Agent Coaching for Women and co-founder of The Boldest Me. She is my guest today on Shades and Layers, sharing her journey into entrepreneurship and how she helps women to discover their strengths and create the lives that they truly want to live. Up next, we discuss the businesses she started before her latest ventures, and she has some words of wisdom for you if you've been thinking about making a big change. Tell us about your first venture into entrepreneurship. How did this journey start for you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I burned out of corporate America. I like to say I kind of rusted out. I just looked
Right,
up one day.
it,
What I mean? Like,
yeah.
ripping and running because I had kind of tempered my career. I was traveling quite a bit and I was tired of that, but that wasn't really it. I just realized that I honestly didn't care about what I was doing. I just didn't care. I was good at it. I could do it by rote, get the job done, but I just didn't care. And I just thought, this can't be everything. Right. And I was fortunate that, I had the opportunity to kind of take my time to think about what I wanted to do next. And I was already at the time, this was years ago, but at the time, I was into fitness. And so I thought, well, why don't I on the side, I became a personal trainer, right? I mean, I just earned the right.
Fabulous.
And that was the first thing when I resigned and, went on my merry way. After 25 years in corporate America, I became a personal trainer very specifically for women in corporate America who are overworked, don't have enough time, and if they wanted to work out, they needed somebody to come to them, or it would be more convenient if somebody came to them. And so That's what I did. And, of course, I knew plenty of these women. It was a very easy switch. I will say the funniest thing that I had to get over was myself about it, because I immediately realized, wow, I used to be one of them. Now I'm just the trainer, so I had to get over my ego on that one,
Yeah. But it does offer this shine, being in a corporate environment. There's something prestigious about that.
Yeah.
And it is designed that way, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you, and to further ingrain it, at least for me, one of the things my father used to every time I'd get a promotion or I moved to a new company, the one thing he always wanted was one of my business cards. Which, I mean, what a way to put a stamp of approval and keep me believing that it was important,
Right. Of course it is, but not that important.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah. But so from fitness, did you transition into this business you're in of coaching and
there were a couple of
development?
Yeah, a couple of iterations in between. So the coaching business went really well, much better than I really just thought I would be an individual trainer. Well, but I then had to add other trainers, and it got to the point where all I was doing was managing trainers. So I was fortunate enough to have one trainer who really had a passion for the business. I didn't have a passion for the business. I just liked the training part. And I was able to sell her the business, and I would, help with the finances and things like that. But so I extricated myself from that, had a great time, but found somebody else who enjoyed it even more. And I moved I started a real estate investment business. And that's where I started. And I was working with women, women who helping them invest in investment properties, doing it myself. But I was working with my clients were people I had known in corporate America, and it tended to be women generally. And in working with them, I mean, I was a CPA, as I mentioned, but that wasn't what I had done in my career. I just happened to be a CPA. So I started using my financial skills to help them with their finances and things too. And then many of them ended up, being involved some kind of way in divorce. That's how I thought, well, this certified divorce financial analyst thing would really help me help them more. And so I started another business, Whitehall Divorce Solutions, which I still run. And that's where I help people very specifically with their financial needs relative to divorce. So everything's been an iteration of one kind or another.
So I like that it all builds on one another, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think it is that made it successful, that made the transition so easy? Was it just skills, attitude? What is it that made these transitions so easy for you? Or manageable.
Or manageable. I think manageable is more accurate. It's sort of like, what do they say about ducks or swans or something gliding along the water with the feet paddling underneath?
Right.
I think that's every entrepreneur's kind of
exactly.
look,
Quite right. Yeah, great analogy. Yeah.
But I think skill, I mean, I'm a very prepared type of person. I really don't just launch into things if I don't have any idea of what I'm doing. In fact, maybe like you and so many people, I tend to over prepare. I'm not
Hmm.
launching off until I'm ready. But so from skill level, I was never concerned or worried about that. I think attitude, just a sense of curiosity. I'm always
Hmm.
curious about people's lives. That's why I wanted to work with individual people. I'm curious about I don't just come at all of the people that I've worked with across my companies. I don't come at them with one size fits all kinds of solutions. I'm very curious about what landed you here. What is it? What are we really trying to accomplish? Those sorts of things. And I think that even being a coach, I mean, there's some skills that are needed, but a lot of those skills are listening and helping people interpret their own thoughts. It's not
Mm.
up solutions. It's just like training, right? All of us know what it is that we're supposed to do. You just need some motivation, someone to hold you accountable, someone to give you some new ideas to keep it fresh. That's all of these things that I do are. Now, maybe with the things with CPA and financial things, I do find that a lot of women, I don't want to speak for all women, but a lot of the women I've worked with are not very well versed in their personal finances or the family finances. That's one thing
Hmm.
I've found. But other than that, most people have the skills that they need to get where they want to go. It's just helping them kind of get out of their own way, really. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Oh, that's fantastic. And um, what helped you in terms of growing as a leader? Do you have mentors yourself, coaches, etc.?
I guess I had like a personal life coach or anything like that. I've been fortunate in my corporate career just because of the nature of how corporate America works. You tend to have mentors whether you like it or not. I've had some planned ones and some unplanned ones, and some were better than
Right.
others. But I've been fortunate to have people who just gave good advice or yeah, people who gave good advice or bosses who were kind and welcoming and unthreatened, you know. I think a
Mhm.
threatened boss is not one who's going to be particularly helpful, but if you can have a boss who feels as if they're going somewhere, then they have no qualms about you going somewhere as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good thing to look out for. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So preparation, mentors, and curiosity. Tools, the actual hardcore tools that have helped you along the way. Any productivity hacks you would say have been helpful?
Yeah, I'm not sure about productivity hacks per se. But I am a big believer in if there's an app that will do it, let the app do it. I'm a big believer in if there's somebody who knows how to do this and I'm going to have to learn how to do it. In other words, I outsource a lot of things. And, I've had earlier in my career or my entrepreneurial career, I had a lot of conversations with myself where I'm fighting with my internal self saying, yeah, but you can figure out how to do it. It would be cheaper and da da da. And finally, after, lots of trial and error, I finally have gotten to the point where, again, if it's something that I need to learn and it's not core to me doing what I do, then I need to outsource this. What not, and I don't mean like whatever the cost. It's just that it tends to be less expensive, both in time and money, to let professionals do what professionals do. And it's so easy now, Upwork and Fiverr.
Hmm.
You can find people to do all these side gig things. I have worked with people, women who are entrepreneurs who are we end up working on their business as part of trying to find out where they're going because they've gotten so enmeshed in doing everything themselves. I just find it's not productive and it's not really moving you forward. In fact, it's almost kind of a way to avoid doing what it is you actually
Yeah.
need to be doing, right?
Okay. So, what's the first thing you would advise somebody to do if they were dreaming of leaving their corporate job and getting into a business or something that they've been passionate about?
Yeah, two things. One, I think you kind of alluded to this a little bit. Talk to people. I think we often get in our heads and just get ideas. I have a million ideas a day. I'm sure you do too, of things I could do. Just walking around the world and you see something like, I could knit cardigans. I mean, there's a million things that we could all do. But
Sure.
A, are you good at it? And B, is there a market for it, like I said before? But also go out into the world. The only way you're going to know, you can Google till the cows come home, but you can also go out into the world and you can get on, any of your social media sites and just talk to people who are doing different things. Even have coffee with somebody. You could have a real live meeting with somebody who's doing whatever it is that you think you're interested in. If it gets to the point where, yeah, I really am kind of interested in this, most people, unless you have a good 6 to 12 months of income stacked up. Not everybody does. If you do, great, go forth and conquer, do whatever it is that you want to do. But if you don't,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we live in the side gig environment. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
In fact, people are thriving doing multiple things. So do the thing on the side. If it still keeps your attention over time and you start making money doing it, okay, maybe it's a legitimate thing that you could make your primary. But I'm not,
Right.
I'm not the jump off the bridge kind of advisor. Yeah, just you have a passion, just go for it.
Just
Well,
follow your passion. It's
follow
a
your passion
terrible thing.
blindly. Yeah. I'm practical. Yeah.
All right, all right. You're listening to Shades and Layers with Kutlwanus Kosana Richie. Up next, we get into Alison Hall's personal story, the biggest influences in her life, the best advice she's ever been given, and what she recommends for getting past your imposter syndrome, as well as what she sees for herself in the future. So let's get into your own personal story. Something must have shaped you into the person that you are today. Can you share 3 things that have been instrumental in shaping how you carry yourself in the world today? It can be people, incidents, etc.
Yeah. That's this is something that I would advise people to think about more about, because I don't really think about it too much myself, but I do kind of ask my clients to, and I should take my own advice. I know that, well, I'm an only child. My parents were both, white collar professionals. My mother's an attorney. My father was a physician, but he worked in corporate America. Okay. So I just always grew up kind of, it was always assumed that I would go to college. There's never any talk about that, will she, won't she? I mean, that was
Right,
whether I wanted
right.
to or not, that was that. And there was just an assumption in my mind. I don't think anybody ever said it, that I would either be an attorney or go into corporate America. Really, they weren't entrepreneurs. There weren't a lot of, big thoughts and ideas around all the kinds of things you could do. I mean, every once in a while, my mother would throw out something, that was off the cuff, like, you should be a journalist, like,
Oh, okay.
apropos of what? I don't, nothing. I have no training, but thanks for
Fun.
But my parents were always very supportive of everything I wanted to do. So I spent many years of my career just trying to do what I thought was the right thing, right? And I knew that moving up and getting bigger promotions and making more money, those were the things that I was supposed to do. And so I did it. And I wasn't wildly unhappy. I was just sort of net neutral,
Sure.
I made enough money to enjoy my life. So I figured that was great. So it wasn't until it was later, when my parents cared less about what I did and cared more about my own happiness, that I started to think about it. And so it's sort of a backward shaping, I suppose, but I felt freer to do and think about things that I really wanted to do. And I think, going back to a question you had before about, women of a certain age or something, I think, again, that's what happened to me. I was just kind of living the life I thought I was supposed to. And then I was like, well, feel like I could do something else, or there's more, or whatever. And then I had some successes that were very personal to me. Like, again, I said, I never practiced as a CPA. I mean, when I first got out of school, right? But I got a CPA because I wanted to see if I could pass the exam on the first go. It was just an internal thing, because even though I was successful on the outside, or appeared that way, I really didn't have a lot of self-confidence. So I put little tests in front of myself to, kind of make me feel like I earned some of the things that I had. And it sounds weird, but I think people can relate to that a little bit.
Women do that.
Yeah, I think people can relate to that. So I can't say that there are any other big things that influenced me. It's just incremental feelings of self-worth that improved and improved over time, with little things that I did that I knew I did. I was the only one who had something to do with it, and it just sort of built up to the point where I was like, I can make any decision I want. I really don't need anybody else's approval. And when I got to that point, that's when I felt like the world was my oyster. I don't think my dad was wildly, by the time I became a personal trainer, if I had done it earlier, he would have been like, have you had a stroke? What are you thinking? But by the time I did it, he was less, he was like, okay, I have all the business cards stacked up here. That's fine. You can do whatever you want.
She's done the thing.
It's fine. She's done it. Carry on. But, and so since then, I felt I'm so happy generally because I know that if I get tired of doing what I'm doing, and I don't see that coming because I get to deal with different people every day, and it's just great. My time is my own, even though I'm kind of busy, but I'm busy in a way that I want to be busy. So I think, not the biggest things, and I can't give a specific time period, but not caring what other people think and not making decisions based on what I think other people think. And one of the phrases that I love, a friend of mine says, most people care more about the mole on the back of their head than what you're doing. And I love that. It's
so true. That's a great thing to keep in mind. And that brings me to, the best advice you have been given and that you live by to this day.
The best advice I've been given. Well, yeah, I had a boss once who said, if this isn't something you want to do, find something you do want to do. And that can sound one way or the other. Like, if this isn't what you want to do, it wasn't like that. It was said in a way like, if you don't have a passion for this, or you don't see yourself going somewhere with this, find something else. Life's too short. And I know we all say life's too short very often, so it becomes kind of a muted thing in our minds, but it is true. Unless there is a second life where I get a do-over, I'm not sure about that. I've got to do everything I'm going to do right here and now. The thing that I would like other people to live by, and I try to myself, is that everything that you hear in your head isn't necessarily true. All those thoughts that ratchet through your head very quickly, all those negative people, call it the inner critic or whatever, the inner voice or all that kind of stuff. It's just the people or the person's talking in your head. Everything they say isn't always true. I'll never find another job. Well, is that true? Probably will. We have so many, how many negative thoughts I read? I'm sure you know the statistic. I read a statistic about the number of negative thoughts that we have every single day. So my thing is to try to hear them, but you don't have to listen to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how, I would say, it leads to imposter syndrome, I would say, like listen to those. And how do you advise people to get over that?
Yeah, well, with clients, it's all about, for me, it's about writing it down. Like if you can catch a thought, write it down, catch a thought, write it down. And it's kind of laborious and people don't really enjoy doing it. But then later in the day, when you go back to reflect, for every one of those that you saw, write the opposite. What could the opposite truth be? Or what could be, let's assume that's not true. What could be true? What's the kind?
What could be true? Yeah. Wonderful. That's great. So right now you are having fun, you're curious, you're still learning. It's amazing times. So what's your vision for the next while, the next few years as you work with these clients and they are launching their bold lives?
Yeah, I hope they will launch their bold lives. I hope people will continue to do that. I hope I will continue to be a part of it and make it more and more, just because the world has become more and more remote. I hope we'll have more live events, but also I will be able to work as remotely as I can and help people in that way, because I would love to, I would love to have an animal sanctuary. So on a big plot of land, I don't want to save tigers or elephants or anything that I don't know anything about. It's like cats and dogs and, your average kind of run-of-the-mill animals that get unhomed. So that's my plan. And so to have enough space for that, I need to be a little outside of, your average big city limits. So, So that's my big plan.
Moving further out. Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. My husband's trying to convince me I'm not ready. I still love the city.
Yeah, I do want to be within driving distance. I will say that.
Yeah, exactly. Great. And where can people find you if they want to work with you or find out more about your work?
Oh, yeah. I answer all of my own emails. So Alison with one L at Change Agent Coaching, or Alison at theboldestme.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. I I don't post a lot, but I'll read everything that somebody sends me. So that's also Alison Hall, Coach Women. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That is great. Is there anything else that people should know about you?
No, I don't think so. If they're really interested, hit me up. I'll be happy to
Just
chat.
get in touch.
Yeah.
Great. And that is all from me today. Thank you for listening. You will have noticed something different about this episode. Do drop me an email on hello@shadesandlayers.com and let me know what it is. Or just say hello. If you liked this episode, then please go ahead and share it with someone. Thank you. I'm Kutwanus Kosana Richie. And until next time, please do take good care.